Howdy, hey, how was your day? Welcome to the Seeking First podcast, where we open books and talk about cooks, because it is Taco Tuesday and we had tacos tonight.
No,
I was gonna talk about it. Did you have tacos
we
for Taco
didn't.
Tuesday?
No, we
How dare
grilled
you?
out. But now, actually, okay, I have this terrible thing ever since working at that place that was really close to like that Mexican restaurant that like went hard.
Yes.
Bear with me here. That was a very bad intro.
I got
But,
you.
like, I feel weird being like specific about like towns and everything. So
For sure.
we
We don't want to
anyway,
know.
HIPAA, right?
Yes.
Just kidding. So, I'm sorry. Anyway,
Great.
so ever since celebrating that on Tuesdays for lunch, now like every Tuesday I think of it because of like, you know what? If I was still working there, I know where I'd be for lunch.
Taco Tuesday.
I'd be getting $1 tacos on Taco
I'm
Tuesday.
mad that you and I never went because you said it was $1
We have
tacos, and
opportunities to do that.
That's true. When I come
Dude,
visit
we could
next.
literally do that when you come. When you come.
Oh my gosh, we should.
We can also record together. Bring your stuff. Bring your stuff.
Yes.
We're gonna record together.
Gosh,
We'll
bring
record
all
at the
4
taco place
computers.
on Taco Tuesday, eating $1 tacos.
Yes.
It would be
Okay,
a blast.
guys, leave.
They
our
wouldn't mind like
thumbs up
Mexican
if you
music
want
in
us
the
to do
back,
that.
right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Something you know the
Jazzy.
music. It feels like the same song over and over until you hear
It
like
really does.
was one part and you're like, oh nope, this part's different than the last part. Okay.
So do you guys
Dude, I
feel good
love
about
that.
this intro? You feel good about this intro?
Yeah.
Just checking.
Oh, I'm super passionate about Taco Tuesdays.
Just checking.
Yeah. Thank you.
We don't want to repeat a Babbling Brooks, okay?
This is way better.
This is
I love
Bree's
Taco
Babbling Brooks Taco Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay. I'll take that.
I would like to say with the music though, is one of my pivotal Mexican restaurant memories. I feel like this is the thing. Everyone has like those Mexican restaurant memories.
Oh yeah.
I have one where I went with 3 of the oh my gosh, at that point they were like probably freshmen in high school, like these 3 guys from youth group.
Oh dear.
And
was I there?
no, you weren't there.
Okay. I remember one
3
time
of
someone
them-
broke the salt thing.
Oh gosh, that's a whole other story. Yeah, that was annoying. But this is a different time, and we went to a Mexican restaurant, and so me and just 3 freshman crazy boys who were all like best friends. Anyways, we're there, and when we got in, it was like before supper, like probably 4-ish, so like not many people were in there, and it was really quiet. And so we sit down, and they start like dumping chips in people's waters when they're not looking, like obviously only at our own table, not other tables, but like putting chips in waters. Yeah, like, you know, blowing the straw wrappers out and like making so much noise. And all I see is the guy who was our waiter just like walk over to like the little place where all the computers are and like press a button. And next thing I hear is super loud music on the speakers. And I was like, guys, I swear they just turned up the music because y'all are being loud and noisy and they wanted to shut you up. And they're like, they didn't do that. And I'm like, you didn't see what I saw. He looked at our table and then pressed the button and the music got turned up.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
how do you go back there?
I don't know if I have since.
Okay. Well, that
Maybe
makes it
once. Yeah. It's a little bit farther away, so it's fine.
okay.
But
I love Mexican restaurants.
they're so good. Yeah.
They're really good. Taco Tuesday is awesome, and I don't celebrate it. I'm sad I don't celebrate it. I kind of legit want to have tacos every Tuesday now. Like, make that a thing. But then
we've like tried to, but sometimes we don't.
Yeah, I mean, I could easily get tired of it. So I think you'd have to like change up the meat, like fish tacos.
Well,
and
we
then
sometimes
have, like,
get a
beef
rotisserie
tacos,
chicken, and then we have So like tonight we had
like a
beef and
Costco
chicken.
rotisserie or something.
Yeah, that's what we got, was a Costco rotisserie. Well,
I mean, okay. What white American family doesn't? The Costco rotisserie chickens are bomb.
And when it's $5 and there's
we literally have half a chicken in our fridge right now.
Yes,
we all
so
just like
handy for so many things.
It's fantastic.
Yes, and like tonight they also found like these like nacho cheese like shells, and it like came with queso. But like what was interesting is like Bethany was asking me like, oh, what does the like cheese sauce taste like? And like the only thing I could think of was like, you know, when you went to camp, or I guess more people would know, like when you go to like basketball games or something and you get nachos and that cheese, like you eat it
and
tastes
you're like that cheese.
Oh, this is just full preservatives, like, and that's what it tasted like.
It's plastic cheese.
Yes, the plastic cheese with like the chips that were probably slightly stale before you had them, but like
100%.
You can't tell.
Yeah, but the cheese, because you put the plastic cheese on it and then it melts them, it makes the nachos. You know, honestly, nachos are a scam. They are a scam.
Oh my gosh, for real! Just go get some freaking Velveeta and just like dump it on a bag of chips.
Velveeta's plastic cheese too, girl.
Well, I'm saying if you
have to go out there, milk
nachos.
the cow, make the cheese, and then shred it up.
So Bri's gonna be a crunchy mom when she's older, apparently.
Basically. Oh, stop, Josh! Don't be jealous.
Like,
just kidding. Just because my kids are eating fresh shredded cheese doesn't mean you can come at me.
Bri's gonna come to our Taco Tuesday nights and be like, look at this shredded cheese I got from my cow. That's only for my kids.
This is from Bessie, and Bessie loves our family, so she produces a lot of milk.
I had no
So today we're actually going to just dive right in after Taco Tuesday, because I feel like I'm just going to put a wrap on it. After Bessie, we're just done. So not Taco Tuesday. Oh my gosh. So the book, in the book today, we are talking about prayer still. We're still in the section of prayer. But today we're specifically talking about journaling and just taking, what does he call it? Let's see, taking a break from the chaos. But also, like, Eric and I decided to add on some little things to it.
That was the wrong
like, we're going to talk about just some, I'm sorry?
The title is different. Sorry. I'm going to say that before we confuse everyone. It's Journal as a Pathway to Joy for the first chapter.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Did I say that? I don't know. Okay. Okay. Well, now that she's got me confused and insecure, Erica, why don't you take it away?
Okay. So I just want to make sure nobody got confused. What chapter they're joining us, being like, wait a second.
I mean, that was yeah. No, we're talking about journaling. It's chapter 11 and chapter 12. There we go. Yes. We'll just go by the numbers. That's easier.
There we go.
So 11 and 12 is what we're talking about tonight. And also 11 and a half, which we're going to throw in between because it's kind of a chapter we made up. But just some like practical ways that you can apply or like practice prayer. Like prayer walks and things like that. I don't want to get into it too much before we talk about journaling. So,
we'll get there.
But yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I'm super pumped because
I'm excited.
I recently started taking journaling like seriously. Like I kind of casually did it. I know, Erica, you've done it like seriously for a while, and you made me feel bad. I was like, man, I wish I would have done that. But it's okay. Now I'm doing journaling.
Hey, it's never too late to start.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. It's not. You can start. And I've had a lot of inspiration. And it's honestly, it's really good to just take a minute and do it. Like it seems like a lot, but it's so helpful. If factually anything that you can like look back and just see how you've grown, see how God has worked. Like I think that's a huge part about journaling. It's just being able to look back and just see the blessings, or even just it's just good to look back and remember that, or just to write it down to process it. I use journaling a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different types of journaling too. So do you want to like kind of go into like, I don't know, what's your favorite like type of way to journal?
Yeah. Well, so David Mathis talks a lot about just like the I guess what you would think of as like the generic journaling, which is like talking about your everyday life, like writing down like what you did that day, all those sorts of things, which is super great. But I'm gonna be honest, I've always struggled with that because I overthink what's important to write down and what's not. So my favorite kind of journaling is I do more specific prayer journaling, where I either write out my prayers or even then sometimes I get overwhelmed writing down prayers and I feel like I almost limit my brain too much, but sometimes it's good. But I like to more write down different prayer requests and like different ways God has answered those prayers, and like kind of more do reflecting sessions of like, oh, we prayed for this and then God answered it on this date, and like make sure to date things and label them and be like, oh, this person was asking for this, and this wasn't specifically what they were desiring, but God did answer it in this way. And more do it like that, which sounds really unorganized, and sometimes it is, but I think that's the key thing to focus on with this, is to utilize journaling as a way to look at all that God has done, to reflect and to focus and to really just pinpoint those different things. And I always like to go back, like whenever I talk about prayer journaling, I've done like lessons on it before because I love it. Shout out to my sister who introduced it to me, because I didn't do it at all before my sister told me about it. But one of my favorite things is going back to some of my notebooks, and there's this one from camp that was just like, Lord, I'm so grateful that we had smiley face French fries at lunch. And that was just so cool that you did smiley face French fries. And I look back at that and I'm just like, man, how often do we not just write down all those little praises too, of just like, God did this small little joyful thing, or this small, because it's so sweet to look on later that like, when I was 10 years old, yeah, that was one of the things that was like this big thing, because not, you don't have much issues at that point.
That was a cool God moment.
Yeah, like a funny God moment with smiley face French fries. They were like one of my favorite foods. And I think that's, I always think how God says have faith like a child, and that means so many different things. But like those little moments, those little things that bring so much joy, like write those down. And I don't know, I think writing down praises is so important, because we don't do that enough either, in answered prayers. So I guess that's like what I like to do the most, because that's what mostly gets forgotten, is those answered prayers, those praises, those good things.
Well, I think it's important to, the way, going back to you saying how he's doing it more kind of like reminds me a little bit more of a diary. And that's fine, but I feel like when I start to write like that, I get super self-focused. Yeah. And that's when it doesn't become healthy or like good. So just to make that difference there, like this isn't like, today was a bad day. But I mean, like it can be like that sometimes, but like the point of this is to be glorifying to God and to grow you to Him. So if you're just kind of writing it like a diary, I mean, I don't know, you can easily fall into self and just all of the negative stuff and not looking at the blessings that God gave you throughout the day. So that I wanted to make that difference. Like that's not what it's about. So that's why like writing down the praises, I think is super helpful, because like, you're just focusing on like the good things and like the things you could praise God about. But sometimes also like I have like super sad journal, like
hey, we've all read Psalms.
Like honestly, it's kind of what it's inspired by that. Like, it's like, there's a psalm, I'm like, sometimes I write some verses like in there and like I feel this, Lord, and I don't understand why, but like that's also helpful to read back on to like, I mean, because I usually incorporate verses and stuff. So like if I'm in that moment again, I can go back and read it. But like also like I can look at it and say, you know what, God brought me through that too. Yes. I remember how I was feeling like in that moment. And I felt like that was the worst and that was the lowest point. And then I'm like, wow, God has used that in amazing ways now. I'm like, so why can't He do that for this situation right now? And then when I write about that situation that I'm in my journal, like it's so much more hopeful, because I look back at that moment where it was really low and it's like, Lord, I don't understand what's going on, but you do. And it's like something to that effect, where it's like, because of what I look back on and what I saw and what I found to be true, is that God is still working through all this. So then I wrote more about that. So I think that's like a really cool aspect. But there's definitely like a healthy, I want to call it like a healthy way to journal, and a not healthy way. But we're promoting the healthy way, like the praises, the stuff that's gonna like help us grow and help us to change. But I would say, I mean, you were talking about your sister being a big inspiration. Jessica, I just used my sister's name. Hope she doesn't mind that. I'm pretty sure she won't. My sister, she was big into it as well. She just was really good at it. So actually that turned me away from it. Don't be offended, Jess. But because she was so good at it, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, like my handwriting is like terrible. Like hers looks good. It looks pretty, but it's also like useful. So that didn't really help me. But what did help me was Elizabeth Elliot. Like reading her stuff. And I know I told you I was gonna bring her up, and I'm just like super excited because she is like my inspiration for like wanting to journal, because she wrote down so much, like so many things, and her stuff was so wholesome and so good, and like I benefit from what she's writing about for herself. And it's like, that's crazy to me. And like, I kind of want to leave that for my kids to like look at someday, or just someone to be blessed by. Like, I'm not expecting it to become big like Elizabeth Elliot and be published. Like, honestly, I'd be terrified to know if my journals were published. I think that'd be kind of scary. But like, you never know. Like, it might not just stop with you. Like, it might not just be a blessing for you. It could be a blessing for your kids someday to see, or your great kids or something, to go back and see, and for them to see God working through it. But yeah, there's like so many benefits, benefits from journaling. And I know it's like, as women, sometimes it's easy to like get into the aesthetic part of it. Oh, yeah. So we should talk about that, unless you have more to add to like the first start. But
I was gonna add that, like, you made me think this with Elizabeth Elliot, and like how, I mean, with her, it you know, boomed. All of her journals get, you know, having people to read them and whatever. I think about my mom, where she has, you know, diaries from when she was like first able to write, and she has always written in her diaries and journals. And like, we always made the joke because my mom said, she's like, I don't care if people read my diaries, but can you have them read it after I die? And so like, we're like, oh, so at your funeral, the centerpieces, each table gets one of your journals, and then, you know, gets to read it.
Oh,
and she's like honestly, I'm not mad about that, but like, it's cool to like, I think honestly it's more impactful for your own kids and family members to read about how you experienced God, and how you know, how your life was. Like, I remember my mom, it was really cool, kind of as we got older, there'd be some pivotal birthdays that we had where, you know, I mean, especially females, sometimes there's certain times where our emotions are out of the wazoo, or there's certain moments in life that just seem so crazy and hard. And my mom would pull out her journal, and she's like, hey, this is my journal from when I was your age. Go ahead and read it. And you can know you're not
that's
weird.
So cool.
You're not alone. You're not like whatever. Like, granted, some of them she's like, okay, I don't want you to read this because it's like really dumb what I did. Yeah. But you're like, okay, understandable, because she never wrote them for other people to see. She wrote them so that she could, you know, have her life down on paper and just get it out of her head. So like, you know, my favorite entry, you know, I guess that relates to my French fry thing, is when the first journal she showed us was from when she was like 10 or something, and there was these really short entries because she wanted to show us girls that because now she writes like pages upon pages, but she wrote so small at first, and that's what made her keep going. And she wrote one that was just like, dear diary, I entered a cereal box competition. That's all. And that's the only thing she had for that day. And like 3 days later, she's like, oh, dear diary, like this boy was my neighbor was being annoying, but also I didn't win the cereal box competition, so that didn't help my day. That's all. Bye. And like these short little spurts,
this little
that I just think are so cool to look back on. And it's again like with you talk about like, you know, maybe not everyone will see it, but like what's important for you to get down on paper, like not so self-focused that you're like, you know, get into that point of too much self-centeredness, but like, what are some things that like you just want to have, you know, you can look back on, you can see, like you can, I don't know, I've been really blessed looking back at my prayer journals. Like I didn't start till I was how old was I, like 14, 15, but from then on, I think I'm on number 9 or something. I label all of them now, but to look back and see like these moments where I wrote down, I finally understand this Bible passage that like I grew up thinking I understood, but now I do. And so like I have that written down, or like these deep prayers of like things I was going through. And then like, you know, you go to the next journal and you open it up. It's like, hey, you know that thing that was huge? Yeah, it's not huge anymore. But like this is what I learned from it. And like it's been such a blessing just to have that. And like I don't care if no one else ever sees it, because one encouragement that like God gives us a way to see his hand throughout our life and like not forget his hand throughout our life through being able to have it written down. And I don't know, got kind of more permanent. Like it's I think it's, I don't know, I think that's really cool and really important. And yeah, I kind of want to address too, like I thought this as you were talking as well, that with us saying that we don't always do it the way that Mathis talks about in his book, I think this is a really good learning opportunity for everyone to know that you don't have to do everything a book says exactly.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just because we like agree with this book for the most part, like we also have our own ways of doing these things.
Yes, and I think that's so important to address, like to understand that just because someone says something, you don't have to look at it and be like, I have to do exactly this, exactly how he says it, or else I'm doing it wrong. It's like, no. Josh pulled
I was gonna say something like, if there's any male lurkers, I've found a lot of men don't find prayer journaling very useful. I've found that like more often than not. There's maybe a few men who are like, no, I really like prayer journaling, but a lot are just like me, where we'd rather if we're gonna use a prayer journal, it's gonna end up looking like a list really quick.
Yeah, I thought about bringing up something for the men, and I was like, no, this is a female podcast. But I'm glad you said something, Josh, because like, I was like, honestly, I don't know what you do. You guys do your thing, but this is us women, and we kind of like to journal it. So, I mean, there are some men. I mean, like even Jim Elliott, he was a big journaler, but like his are super different from Elizabeth too. So that's actually kind of fun to read both of them in the same book, like. I don't know, because it's about the same situations for each other, and like it's interesting to see him write about it and her, and her write about it, and it's
because
like
men and women communicate so differently. So like,
hers is so emotional, and his is so like practical, and he's like, here's the reasons, and it is more like a list, Josh. It's like, here's these things, here's what I need to do, and hers is just so much more heartfelt. Like that is so true to who we are as being man and woman. Like it's so funny, but I mean, like it's you don't have to do it this way. I mean, he gives really good examples, and I think I did.
Well, and he technically says there's no wrong way, but I do think it's like, because I remember when we went over this as a youth group, and I like read this chapter, and I was like, I love prayer journaling, but I never do it like this. And so like I read it and I was like, okay, this could be helpful for some people, not at all for me. And again, that's okay. Like again, I really want to handle that, because we also with our podcast want to tell you guys like how to read books in a healthy way, because I feel like we're told, oh, this is a good book, so you know, agree with every single thing it says and whatever. Not that we don't agree that that's a good method, but like if it doesn't, if you read it and you try
don't stress out about it, like
if it not becomes the point. More of a burden than a blessing, then it doesn't like
change up your way.
I mean, obviously you know yourself, and so with prayer and
it's interesting. I'm sure you would see this too, like I mean, you were kind of hitting on it, but I'm just gonna like call it like when you start journaling, like you'll start doing it one way, and then like I'm sure you can see in your books, and like even with your mom, like you were talking, like it just changes. Like now she wrote like little things, and now she's writing pages. You said, I mean, that happens too. Like sometimes you just start, like I started the way I started doing it, because I wanted to like, I had to force myself into it kind of, because I'm not the type of person to like just sit down, but like seeing how beneficial it is and just like reading about it, and that's so recommended. I was like, why am I not doing this? So I was like, I am gonna try this. So I did, and I started with just writing down like one big prayer request or something every day, and I did it for a year straight, and then I stopped. And I did the list thing too. I still do the list thing to like of prayer requests, because sometimes there's a lot going on, and you just have like, I want to pray for these people, but sometimes you don't always think of it. So I have that list, but I also like now it's more of like pages rather than just little things. But like you can start with that. I mean, just write one thing down every day. Like I mean, it's usually the same for Sunday morning. I could probably read it. It's just like, Lord, like help me lead these people in worship. Help me just give me the strength to push through out of my comfort zone to like just reach these people and just be an open vessel for you to use. And that's basically what I wrote. Like every Sunday I was on team, it was just like, Lord help me or something like that. And like Mondays it was like, Lord help me, it's a Monday, like just little things like that. And then it got more and more to be more like not as surface, I guess. And it became like I don't know what to describe it as, but it changes after time. But you just have to start somewhere, and then it becomes like a really enjoyable thing. And like, well, now I kind of do more of not as much every day, but more of just like big life lessons. Like when I am learning something or trying to learn something, like that's when I pull my journal out. Like I'll do my journal and my Bible, and like I was doing this study through the Sabbath, and like I pulled out my journal and my Bible, and I just started writing about the Sabbath. I used up this like whole section, and I was like, okay. And I was like, that's my journal entry for like, well, I don't know. And then sometimes it's just songs. I don't know if you've ever done that, but like,
I used to. That's mainly what I did at the beginning. Yeah.
It's this one part of a song would like make me think of something, and so I would like write the song that part just really pretty, all cursive, whatever, like these colors or something, have fun with it. And then like down below I would be like, thank you, Lord, for your love. Like if it was a song about love or something that just like in that moment I was like, wow, that song meant so much to me. And so I would journal about it and like write that song in there. Or sometimes it was just a song, like I have several of those. I used to do it all the time. Like just all the time. This one journal is just full of this little song lyrics. But it's like, I don't know, you can do a lot. You can do a lot, and it doesn't have to be like prayers, even like we were just saying, like journaling a song. Like there's so many options. And I do understand like I feel like his example is a very manly example, but I like
I mean,
he's
a guy, so like it makes sense.
Oh yeah, like, well, I'd be concerned if he was like, "Get out your highlighters now,"
right?
Like, what? Okay.
Well, and I remember like teaching prayer journaling. Josh had me do that. Like that was one of my first youth group lessons over the summer, and I went in with it, and I was just like, okay, and I would go straight up. I was like, guys in the room, most of these are not going to be appealing to you, and that's okay. And I'm like, they don't have to be. I'm like, I just want you to realize what the root of this is and why the root of it is something that you could pursue if you are feeling led to. Because like I always try to like the way I started was Bible verses, and I would just make Bible verses look really pretty, like ones that stood out to me, and I would use it to kind of meditate on the verse. So like if there was a verse, and there were even ones I didn't understand, like, oh, I don't understand this verse, I'd write it out. And then like one thing that my sister Nicole, I'll call out my sister too, she won't care.
Okay. There we go, they're both out there, you both know our older sisters' names.
You're welcome. But what don't she be weird like had us do one of the I was in a Bible study that she led, and she had us during our retreat. It was like full on just learning how to prayer journal and all the different ways you could. And one of it was taking a verse or a psalm lyric, and like you'd write it down, and then you would like underline one of the words, and then you write it down again, you underline another word, and you kind of see how different emphasis like not change the meaning of the word, but makes you reread it in a different way. So you're not just mindlessly reading it. Like it makes you read it and stop and pause and think, okay, what is it saying? And another, what was the other way that she taught us really cool? With hymns, she had us write down like the lyrics to hymns or like psalms that we knew really, really well. So we can meditate on those. And then a way that's really cool at prayer journaling that I'm gonna bring up, that's like my favorite way, is like communal prayer journaling, because you don't just gotta do it by yourself. I think this is important to talk about. When I taught my lesson with youth group, the journals did not stay in our laps. I did one of my favorite things to do when I'm first teaching prayer journaling. And you have your prayer journal, and you write down your prayer requests, and then you pass it to the person next to you, and you receive someone else's journal with their prayer requests, and you write down a prayer for them. And what's so cool about that is not only can you see your own prayers, what they were then, and like, you get that history moment, and that this is what was happening then. But you see these people that care about you, your brothers and sisters in Christ, like you get to reflect on what they were praying for, like how they, like I think a lot of times we get so stuck in our heads of what we so badly want we want our prayers to be answered. And when you let someone else pray in that way or write down a prayer and you look at it and you're like, well, that's not what I was expecting to be prayed for this specific thing, but that's really good. And it kind of changes your perspective on how to pray for other people when you get to see that and you can go back and reflect on that. And what's cool is if it's with a group, like with my Bible study with my sister, we did that like at least once a year. We would do it, usually more regularly. So we could reflect on how our friendships have grown and our own walks with God have grown. And I think that's important too. Another way is we wrote down, like, for mine it would be Erica is ... You passed around, everyone has a different color, and you write down ways that you've seen that person, like things you've seen that person, like attributes or traits or things like that.
That was always so encouraging as a young insecure girl. Like those activities, I'm sure like men probably didn't get it, but we're not it. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna like stop bringing up. This is for the women. This is for the women,
and that's
you can get your men's stuff somewhere else. So that was so encouraging, though. Honestly, like just being super insecure, or just like sometimes you just wonder, like, do people see those? Like, do they see like the change that God is like really working through me, and then like doing things like that, like. It wasn't just made up. Like those girls were like authentic about it. You know what I mean? And they were like, I see how God is using her in this way. And like sometimes you are like, wow, like I see that too. Or sometimes you're like, oh, I didn't notice that. Like I kind of just like, I don't know. I didn't really see that as like a God thing, but it really is. So it's so helpful to do that. I love that you brought that up. Community journaling.
Yes. I just think it's something that's never talked about, and I think it's because no one knows how to do it. And it's so important. I was gonna bring up one of the quotes from the chat.
Well, here's the thing. I have a couple too. I've been saving back. I do. You go first.
Okay, because I feel like this one really
say the same thing anyway.
I feel like maybe we have the same ones, but I feel like one of the ones that sums it up, and I'm gonna find it actually in the chapter, because I'm not doing this with the next book we go through where I write in cursive thinking I'm gonna be able to read that later, because we record these at night. I'm not gonna have the brain processing.
Your eyes are like, no, I had a full day of looking and processing. No more.
Oh gosh, for real. I look at it and I'm just like, man, I didn't even try to make that look easy to read. Okay.
Well, I come down here with notes on my phone that's dead. So, I don't know I'm just going off of the Holy Spirit now.
Hey, there we go. There we go.
Yep. He's got me.
Nonetheless. Amen. The quote that I have is, the goal is the glory of Christ, not your own, and your ongoing progress in his likeness.
Yes.
For the expanding and enriching of your joy.
That's basically the same quote I had as like a why journaling. It's a way to slow down life just for a few moments and trying to process at least a sliver of the glory of God, our own and our own growth and development, and our enjoyment of the details. Like, it's just, that's like the purpose of it, to slow down and to glorify God in that moment. Because we get so busy. We are fast moving generation. Like, everything's fast. If it's not fast, we have such a huge problem with it. Like, if something's more than like 5 seconds, we will just skip it over, like on Instagram, like scrolling,
how my computer was happening.
Oh, I'm calling you out secretly here. Just kidding. But no, for real, like, everything in this world is so fast that we have such a hard time now purposely slowing down and just stopping and looking and lifting up our eyes, like looking to Christ and seeing him and giving him the glory. Like, the only time we really do that intentionally sometimes is Sunday, because like that is a set apart time. But like, put that into practice, like weekly. Like, find a moment where you can just lift up your eyes and look to him and praise him and give him glory, because he deserves it. And it's silly of us to just get caught up in this world, because like, what what are we even doing? Like, okay, sometimes we are doing stuff that matters eternally, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, this is so much more important. And honestly, y'all can like work and do that too. Like, some things at work are just, you don't have to think about, you just do them. Like, take those moments to like pray or just like lift, like just talk to God. I mean, if you have a moment, pull out a little notebook and be adorable and write something down, you know, like find something, because he's so worthy of that. And we just need to practice it more. But sorry for that rant, but so on a big
true.
it's, I don't know, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, obviously, like we do that on this podcast, right? We just preach to the choir.
Yes.
But it really is important to stop and to find that time, and that's the point of journaling. I feel like that's huge. And even if you're not a really big journaler, like, just try it, because that's I don't know, you never know, just put in the effort to try it.
If anything, I feel like the one of the easiest ways to start is just take a piece of paper, literally of anything, and just write down some gratitude. Just take some time to write down what you're thankful for, and then everything will flow from there. Like, I promise you, there's been so many times where I want nothing, and then that gets me there.
There's literally a quote that backs you up on, not that you need to be backed up on, but it goes really well. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. He says, writing it down provides an opportunity for gratitude and praise to God, not just in the moment, but also one day when we return to what we've recorded. Like, that's what it's about, guys. That's what it's about.
Oh man, when we eventually read Go Through Learning Contentment by Nancy Wilson with you guys,
I'm so excited.
We will someday, because that's a good one. We are going to slam your faces with gratefulness and thankfulness and all of the importance of that. But if you're impatient, go get Learning Contentment by Nancy Wilson. Super good. There's a little
super convicting. Yeah, it's kind of honestly hard to live with yourself.
Maybe they should learn to be content with reading the book you're reading at this time.
Well,
do any of us really just read one book at a time?
I mean,
I'm sorry, my Goodreads says 7 books right now.
You should look at my Goodreads. Okay, it's freaking out on me because it's like, you are so many books behind your goal. I'm like, yeah, but I'm like 50% on all of these other ones. So I'm about to finish them and like come at it with like 7 books knocked out, and I'm gonna be right on track, but like I'm reading them all at the same time, so it's gonna take time.
My favorite is like when it's a bunch of devotionals that I won't get through for the whole year because it's a yearly devotional, and I'm just like, I know I'm 5 books behind, but believe me,
but when the 5 devotional books will come in clutch.
yes. Honestly, y'all, I can never figure out how to add friends on Goodreads, but you guys feel free to add us on Goodreads. You can look at what we're reading.
You're pretty good at that. You always like my stuff, and it always makes me want to read more.
I'm on Goodreads a lot because I have been reminded of how good it is to keep track of my progress, because there's been multiple times my bookmarks have been taken out of my books. So
it's like a necessity now.
It's a necessity to go back and be like, that's where my bookmark was.
That's where I'm at. Okay.
It's very helpful.
I just like knowing. I don't know what it is about percentages. I just like to know what percent I'm at in this book.
It's like to know if I'm 60%
of the way. Right? Yeah. Speaking of motivation. Just kidding.
Oh yeah, where's our chapter and a half, Bri?
What?
Do we have our chapter and a half, or did we?
Oh yeah. We should move on to our half chapter that you're not going to find in the book. But if we could talk to David Mathis, maybe he'd put it in there for us.
Maybe we'll do an expanded edition.
I actually did reach out to him, guys. I just want you to know that I'm trying to get a hold of these authors. Wait, did I not tell you that?
No. Oh, guys, I'm being updated.
Actually,
Josh and I are being updated.
Actually, I'm trying on these things, guys.
I've been meaning to ask you if you would, but then it's like I didn't.
I told you when we started.
Can I just say
we
that
are
I'm
not
super
going
proud
to be
of you?
scared.
Way to go!
Thank you. I literally told you guys, like, look, if we start a podcast, I'm not going to be scared to reach out to these authors and like ask them if they want to be on the podcast.
Okay, yeah, but
he has not responded. I need to find like an email. That's my next step. I tried all the messaging platforms. He did. He does. I tried all those. It can't. So I'm gonna go through like Ligoniers or no.
Yeah.
He's
How
with
cool.
Yeah, he's with Ligonier. No, he's with Canon Press.
He's with Desiring God.
Desiring God. Okay, that's the one.
John Piper.
I knew. Don't worry. I mean, even if I message the wrong one, they'll send me some good one. Oh, that's right. Crossway.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
I
exactly
could have looked at that and then known.
Looked at our actual book to get information about the author. What's that?
What do you know? Well, I'll reach out to
fact.
Desiring God and be like,
heck yeah,
we desire David Mathis.
there it is.
And if you, the listener, want to support this, you should start emailing him as well, saying, David Mathis, go on Seeking First podcast.
Guys,
he seems like a chill guy. I feel like we could really just have a good time.
Here's what
also, like, this book has been out for a while, so like,
I'll say
might want to come back and revive
I've actually heard him speak before. I've gone to, and I actually I heard him speak before at a Bethlehem conference.
Your friends?
No, but I did speak to him. I did go and speak to him after and asked him some questions, and he was a chill guy.
I could
David
tell
Mathis
just by this book
to be on our podcast.
He does. I'll send him this one. Just kidding.
Heck yeah.
I felt super. I don't know. Let's just say I don't want to get like too good and like too creepy and like going after it, but I do want to try emailing him. I just don't know where to find people's emails.
Maybe what we can do is our Seeking First community. Like when we post our episodes, feel free to go in the comments and tag the author or the publisher and just be hey.
Because if we do it, they're just gonna be like, oh, nice. But if like people will do it, they'll pay attention.
We start a riot. I'm kidding. We're not gonna start a riot.
If we start a riot. Jeez, I wasn't thinking about going that far. I was just gonna email him.
So
anyway, well, I'm glad I could surprise you guys with that. Just so you know.
Yeah, I had no idea you were doing that.
Yeah, no, we still have like more of the books, so I'm not done yet. I have other things. I was just giving him time.
Okay.
Anyway, so on our chapter and a half,
yes,
if you're a girl and you just like try it, you've tried journaling and you're not into it, there's some other really cool ways you can kind of get the aspect of the journaling. I love prayer walks. Those are super fun. Prayer walks, or honestly, note cards. It's kind of the same idea, but I have like a little backboard thing that at some point, like when life just gets like super busy and I just don't have time, like I just take a note card, I write on it. Sometimes it's prayer requests from other people, sometimes it's prayer requests from me, sometimes it's a verse, and I just slap that baby on the wall. And then it's just like it's full of these little like random papers, index cards and stuff. But it's kind of the same idea, like you're still taking that time to write it down. And like it's right by my bed, so like in the morning when I'm just like not ready to get up, I just like roll over and I look at it and I start reading all of the things and whatever. And it's super encouraging. It really is. Yeah. So that's kind of a fun one. Those are some things I enjoy to do. I was trying to think. I felt like there was one other thing I was going to bring up with that, but just the I mean, honestly, this is kind of cheesy, but you know how we have chalk on the wall from you.
Oh, yeah.
Like chalking, like go outside. Like
I've done that so many times.
There's so many different ways you can apply it. It really just all the same goal in mind, making you stop and enjoy, and just praise God. Yeah, and give Him glory.
Sticky notes a lot. Like when I'm at work, you always have sticky notes somewhere at work.
Yes,
you can always just grab a sticky note, write something down, and stick it where you'll see
slap it on there. Else will see it. That's right.
We're just slapping it on everything.
Exactly.
But honestly, like utilize what you have, or like you don't need a fancy notebook or journal. Like grab some pieces of scratch paper and use that. Or
there's been like
go on a walk.
Yeah, prayer walks are great. Like you just you walk around an area that you don't have to like think about, because then if you get lost, then that's terrifying. And your prayer starts saying, Lord help me. But small town, smallish town, I'm not gonna get lost.
Right.
So just start walking, and like I like to use the walk to motivate the prayers, to prompt the prayers, I guess. Sometimes I'll go in with like a situation and I'll just like, I need to pray about this for seriously, like a set apart time. Then I'll prayer walk. But like just going out and just being like, Lord, thank you for the sun, or thank you for the sunshine. Or if you like walk by someone's house that you know, like pray for that person.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention like specific landmarks.
Yeah. like things like that where they just prompt prayers. I mean, and you won't run out of things. I love to do that in a group though. It was super awkward at the first part. First time I did it, I was like, this is awkward, like what the heck. I also have a problem with being loud. So I always get prayed over, which is fine because I don't really, it's all right. The Lord hears me. But like, so I have to be like in the middle of the group so everyone can hear if I'm praying or not. But anyway, I do love doing that because like it's uniting, and like also you could stop and pray for someone. Like that's fun to do on a prayer walk too. Be like, hey, we're doing a prayer walk. Like, can we pray for you? That's so awesome to do. So that's kind of a like hands-on. I mean, I guess journaling is hands-on too. A more physical,
I think that's what it's, because some people just like, they're kind of people where it's they can't focus as much sitting down and like doing whatever, which is fine. Whatever, we're all different.
Prayer biking,
but I think
it's fun too.
I wish I liked to bike.
No joke. I used to have this in the summer Sunday routine. It was really rough point in life, and I just like after church I was just drained emotionally, and just like it was rough. So I would just like bike on the Kiwash to Westchester and just pray that whole time, like there and back. I was like, didn't listen to music, just like in nature, like in God's creation, just like praying, and like that was so helpful. So there's other ways to do it. You don't have to just walk. You could drive too, right? Although I feel like that's scarier.
No, but like the prayers I've had while driving, I remember I had a friend in middle school and high school, and the coolest thing was there was one day where I was struggling so much, and I just straight up told her, I was just like, I don't want to pray. I don't want to ask God to help me with this, because I was just being so stubborn and so inwardly focused. And my friend was just like, do you want to just drive around? And I was like, sure, whatever. Like, I don't want to do anything, but like, why not? I don't have to do anything with that. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. So we drove around, and like she's just like, okay, do you want to talk about it? I was like, no. And she's like, okay. And then she'd be like, look at the cool scenery. And then she's like, do you want a slushie? And I was just like, well, I guess. I'm like, but not right now. And she's like, okay, well, we'll get a slushie eventually. Just like, let me know when you want it. And I'm like, right? And I was like, oh, okay. And so like, we keep driving around, and eventually like, she'd look around and she'd be like, oh, do you want to like pray for youth group happening this Sunday? And I was like, well, sure, that'll distract me from my problems. And so I'll be like, yeah,
say no to that.
Right? And so like we prayed for that, and then like eventually like I was able to just take my mind off of it so well, because there was the constant changing scenery, and there was the memories of other things, and I was finally able to be like, oh my gosh, okay, this is the problem is me being stubborn. Like it's, God is everywhere. God is big. God is powerful. And so eventually we did pray for, my own things I was going through and those struggles while we were driving. And I think that's a super cool way to do it. Like get in your car and get away from what reminds you of those problems. Like that's huge.
I mean, that kind of goes into the next part. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I prayer drive constantly. I prayer drive constantly. That's kind of that's like, I mean, the big thing to remember is, when we close our eyes, it's usually because in certain circumstances, that's the best way to do it. But when you're doing prayer walks or prayer drives, the best, you obviously you have to keep your eyes open.
Close your eyes.
But actually, there's a benefit to that. There's a benefit to that, in that you are praying for the things that you see. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it takes your perspective so off of yourself and onto what's around you and the world around you. But
it's kind of like praying the Bible. Like it makes you pray about things you wouldn't normally pray about, because you're seeing it and you're like thinking about it. But I like where you're going.
Be out of the box.
Ayo, Josh is pulling out a great book called Praying the Bible.
I gotta get y'all links. We'll get the links at some point. I did the podcast and then I forgot to do books, so I apologize.
That's okay. We're new at this, Erica. You have to remember that. Though we feel like we've been doing this for years at the coffee shop, we are just now recording it, so it's okay if we forget.
It's not just people eavesdropping anymore. We're actually inviting.
That actually happened a lot. That's okay. They probably heard something good. I don't know. Holy Spirit probably used that moment.
We can hope. We can pray for that. There it is.
That's right.
Bringing it back.
Bri. Oh my gosh. So many girls use that now. Sorry.
Do they actually?
Yeah, and I don't know whether to allow them to use that. I was like, hey, that's our podcast.
Like, that's copyrighted.
Honestly, I was like, they were using it in Sunday school, and I was like, excuse me, I say that. Like, that's not.
Excuse me.
What are you saying?
Are you even a part of the Thinking First community?
Yeah, but probably
Most
not.
of them are, honestly.
Okay, I don't know.
Anyways,
it's fine.
Literally bringing it back now.
So literally bringing it back. You were talking about the just going away, and that's a perfect transition into this next part that I want to touch on before we wrap it up. About solitude and just getting away from the chaos. Important. I have not done this well, but I've heard people that do it. I know Josh, he's my inspiration to like someday just do this, but it's also kind of really scary for me to think about. But he would like go to parks. He would go to parks and he'd have Bethany like drop him off at a park, and he would just be there like with his Bible and like I don't know what else he had, probably water, right? I don't know. Just nothing super distracting, okay, guys? But just like getting away from the things in life and taking a moment to be silent and to listen and to pray. And not all at the same time. Like have a moment of silence. Like I think that's super important. I don't know if it's like just being open to listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels weird. And like I'm not saying that you'll hear something every time. I'm not saying that you'll ever hear something. But sometimes you just need to be quiet.
Well, there's multiple
Elizabeth
times
Elliot
in scripture it talks about be still and like wait on the Lord and all those things, and we don't, and it's wasted. Well, it's like we've talked about what means of grace is like it's not doing things to get something that we wouldn't otherwise get. It's putting yourself more directly in the waterfall of grace, and that's a huge way to do it. Like you're not like not that if you never do it you'll never get anything out of scripture or whatever, but like why wouldn't you when you can get so much?
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to like our generation too. Like we are just like now, like do this, and like sometimes we just need to like not. Sometimes we just need to stop, and we just need to be quiet. And that's honestly. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was
gonna like every episode it goes.
I know we said we weren't going to, and I'm
we
like,
said we wouldn't be like this, and we still do it.
I just heard a quote that went with what you were saying that said we need quiet and to be alone more than ever before with all the modern technological advancements.
Yeah,
and it is so true.
Technology fast. Bring it back to like the last episode we did, like fast from that. Like that's like kind of like a mini. You could view it as like a mini fast session, honestly, where you could just like take a break from what it is to focus on God.
Oh yeah,
and just be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have. I mean, all I have to say is just stop and listen.
Yeah,
and listen. Anyway, oh my god,
I think like honestly, I mean, I'm just gonna like go quickly through some of these quotes that I have with it because it just kind of sums it up really well.
Okay, go for it.
Because I feel like there's not much that has to be said on this, just really good reminders. Because I feel like this is something we all kind of just know, but we need that little push to do. But there's this one quote that says, for those of us who are in Christ, we want to come back better, not only rested, but more ready to love and to sacrifice. He has said in there too, it helps us hear God's voice. Silence and solitude isn't constant, but it's I can never pronounce this word. A respite. Is that how it's pronounced? Yes. Okay. I never know if I'm pronouncing it right. And then he also says solitude is a companion to fellowship, a fasting from people to make our return to them all the better. And I think that's an important part of what he said. That's what hit me most in that chapter was he talked about how solitude isn't avoiding what's happening around you. It's making it so you can do more within that situation when you return. I think about that with a household full of kids I'm in every day. Like I don't want to keep myself away from it, but I want to be able to do enough that I can, glorify God through it and be focused on him through it and rooted on him through it rather than overwhelmed and, going crazy and focus more on the worldly things than the godly things. So I think that's like the important root of this is like silence and solitude isn't just to avoid the world and the hard things around you. It's to make it so you come back restored and rested and ready to go again and rejuvenated.
So I'm a big advocate of solitude as a practice, like Bri mentioned, and I really think that if you can get away for a couple days a year, I think you should, because it's been such a it. I like to think about it like this. So there's a story about Robert Murray McCheyne. He was a famous Puritan preacher. He has a Bible plan that a lot of people use, a Bible reading plan, and that's how he's kind of known. But he was a great preacher. And someone once, a visitor came in and asked one of his elders, "So what's the secret to success?" And he said he brought him into McCheyne's office and stood him there and said, and he said he stood behind the desk and raised out his hands, held out his hands and said, "This is where he prays." Because he holds out his congregation in prayer and prays for them. That's how he is able to be the preacher that he is. And the lesson of that is the most important thing that a preacher needs. The lesson that especially the person who's giving this example was saying is the most important thing a preacher needs for his congregation is to themselves be right with God and be communicating with him. And so I think about solitude, like the reason I think solitude has always been so important for me is because the most important thing my ministry, my family, my community, the most important thing that they need from me is for me to be attuned to God's voice. And so I'll go out there and I'll just read Psalms and pray. I'll walk and read and pray and walk and read and pray. And it sets kind of a tone that even like, especially after those times, I'll then intentionally seek out maybe an hour or two a week where I can do some solitude, just walk and think and pray. And that became such a part of my ministry that everyone knew that on Tuesday mornings, if you wanted to look for Josh, because Tuesday was my first day of the week, I took Mondays off. If you wanted to find me on Tuesday morning, I would be pacing in the basement praying. That's what I would do at the start of every week. And it's because the most important thing that my ministry, my family, my community needed was for me to be attuned to the voice of God, and prayer and solitude is key for that.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that, because you really are my inspiration for doing that, because like I saw that, like I saw you do it, I saw the fruit from it. It's like it's a for real thing, and so it's something I'm trying to be better at. So I want to encourage you guys to think about that too, and really just start to incorporate that into your walk with Christ, is just finding that solitude time.
Yeah, it's so important. It's one of those things where you don't realize how impactful it is until you do it, and then you kind of just never want to stop like trying to make that a thing.
I honestly would compare it to kind of like how people will say, couples with kids, it is imperative that you find time to do date nights because of your kids' need. Like, you might think I have a bunch of kids and so I don't have time to have a date night, but you have your marriage is too important to your kids for you not to take a date night. I would say that's kind of the same thing. You might say, well, I have too many responsibilities to get away once a year to do a solitude retreat. And I'll say you probably have too much going on for you not to make it a priority.
Yeah, that's good. That's super good. So with that conviction, we'll just let that sit in your stomach for now.
I appreciate
coming next week.
Well, I appreciate that we just had Josh be able to participate in this part.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna soften it up. I'm just gonna leave it there hardcore, and you just let that sit and you think about that, and I'll think about it too. Okay,
we'll all
let
it
sit for me too.
And then we're gonna post some quote a week later being like, has anyone done this? Because do it.
Has anyone done this?
Yeah.
How's the solitude?
How's the solitude? How's the journaling? How's the prayer? And that's finishing up, guys, our part 2 of this book. I can't remember what's called. Having His Ear. Is that what's called? Yes, good.
Yep.
Having His Ear.
Right on the dot.
Yeah, and that's honestly, Bri and I were pumped about this, and we'll get to start next time on part 3, which is about his body. And being with his people, which, man, we'll have lots to say about that too. That's another topic we're pretty passionate about. So be prepared for that. Buckle up for that exciting.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Phone just died.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Wait, you're trying to charge this one. I don't know. Oh shoot. Okay.
Hold up. It's almost like someone told you this would happen because you didn't charge your case.
Hold on. Got it. Okay.
It's almost like you need to say, Josh, you were right.
Editing that part out.
Figure, you knew.
My father figure, gross.
That is.
He's been going dad mode on me. How dare!
You didn't charge your case. You needed it.
It's literally like the same thing of like my older brother when I was younger. When I was like, "Can you find my stylist?" He's like, "Well, how about you look for it first?" I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, how dare you not help me?" And then I went and found it when I looked for it.
When they said that.
Yes.
My mom always was like, well, did you look for it? And I was like, no, Mom, that's your job.
You're supposed to look for it. And then that is how I feel like it's been with things that Josh tells me I should do. And then I'm just like, well, anyways, before my other earphone dies, oh gosh, I gotta remember where my train of thought was.
You need to tell them our things that we have. Our Buy Me a Coffee.
Yes. First, I hope you'll join us for more tea and shenanigans on the Seeking First podcast. When we talk about his body, it'll be super fun. Catch up in your books if you have them. But as always, remember to go and support us and join our Facebook group officially with a membership for $3 a month at buymeacoffee.com/seekingfirst. And you can always contact us through posts and messages on Instagram and Facebook at Seeking First Podcast. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening. I know that's the end thing. Our end one's like,
can you have that on there? Like right after the song, you just have Bri.
That has been stuck in my head all day.